Welcome to Marketplace Live. Let's defy gravity.
So welcome to our Marketplace Live session today with Accenture, today from Zurich, Switzerland. Our session will be about 15 minutes, and we encourage all participants to ask questions during the session on the chat or to contact us directly after the session. So with that, I would like to welcome our guest, Guido Greber. Guido is the lead for the Accenture Cloud Innovation Lab. Accenture recently joined our community at Interxion by moving parts of the Innovation Lab into our data centers. So Guido, first question to you. You're the lead of the Accenture Cloud Innovation Lab, but I know you're wearing many hats. So please tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, hi JP, hi everybody. Thanks for having me here. It's a great pleasure, and also it's a great pleasure to be part of the community. We are really looking forward, especially to our nice fireside chat here. Mainly, I'm still involved in client work, so I still have a delivery role within Accenture. But besides that, besides the Accenture Cloud Innovation Lab, I'm also running the Accenture Red Hat Business Group in the DACH region, plus Russia. I'm also responsible for the Accenture Google Business Group within Switzerland, and I'm the China Bridge Tech Ambassador as well. So there's several roles. So it's not boring on our side.
Yeah, I can imagine that. So with all the roles and hats on, do you still have any time for your private life at all?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, family is first, especially in these times. So all good. I still keep the time. I'm happy about that. I always have to ask my bosses not to put more on my shoulder, but so far we're so good.
Excellent. And I know from previous conversations as well, you've spent some time in China. Do you speak any Chinese?
Yes, fluent. As I lived for 7 years in China for 10 years ago, which was a great time, by the way.
Great. Okay. No, that's really impressive. So we've heard about you personally. So tell us a bit more about the Accenture Innovation Lab.
Yeah, the Innovation Lab has a very special story. So around 3 years back, we have been challenged by our clients. Say, hey, you have wonderful PowerPoint slides, but we want to see it. Can you show it to us? And especially, it was not about one cloud, whatever. So it was about having a multi-hybrid cloud in place and show how it works, how it should be set up. And so actually we start developing our own environment. And now by today, we are really running it with a huge ecosystem. So we have in it partners like Microsoft, AWS, Google, Ali Cloud, even HP, Cisco, and so on. So it's a good crowd. I think at the moment 20 ecosystem partners. But we also have, and I think that's very interesting because it's innovation. We have also young companies, startups, or more mature startups. For example, one which we have, it's in country, which is an Israeli startup, which actually takes care about data residency. So very interesting. We really have to look how they take off in the market. We also have another startup from Austria, Innsbruck, which it's called Dexter, and they're about tool-based cloud assessment, which is quite amazing how they process on helping us actually to identify the cloud readiness of our clients. And that's what we have on this side. And not to forget, of course, the new in the community, Interxion. We just really, Interxion since this summer actually, is actually really covering our physical side, like the data center and connectivity of our multi-cloud and hybrid setup. So we're very much happy that we can work together here and create something new.
Excellent. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. And we're indeed very happy to be a new member of that great community. So from your perspective, how are organizations in the process of adopting cloud, reimagining their operations to keep up with the gravity of customer demand? So what type of requirements have you seen from your customers?
That's a very good question. We got asked this many, many times. So let me maybe use some findings we had in the current Tech Vision of 2020, which we just published as Accenture, to give you a better view on our and also my view on it. Really, people's love for technology has really changed how we do business. And it had also changed our lives and our way how we work and how we interact in the whole world. Especially now with COVID, there's an additional acceleration behind, which even transforms it quicker than it has done it before. So we see a huge change on this side. But this unconditional love, I would say, it's also starting to fray. So it's increasingly clear that the approaches companies are taking, they're coming to a point where there's no future. So they cannot get any further on that one. So enterprises are facing actually the next big challenge. It's until now, business have largely benefited from following the new technology roadmap laid by digital pioneers. To say we are now in the post-digital area, so I don't think I need to mention this. So leading in the future will require rethinking core assumptions about how and enterprise works in redefining the intersection between people and technology. So that becomes really important. And to move forward, enterprises must first acknowledge the essential role technology plays in people's lives today. And that has to be understood. And how the relations is changing in this set. So some are labeling today's environment as, how to say this, as a backlash or a backlash against technology. You know what I mean, JP?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you explained that a bit better. Yeah, more. Techlash. Okay, I've never heard that, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a backlash. So it's like so our today's environment is like technology is faster. Technology allows us to do a lot of things, but we are staying behind of actually getting the technology in our daily life. But we have a high efficiency that we really want to like to have the technology. So on that one, it's now we would even say that we also publish in the vision. It's like it's more a tech clash.
Right.
It means it's a collision between old models, which they are in course with people's current expectations. So we have old business operating model, old organizations, but you do want to do more, but the organization has to be enabled to do more.
Understood. Interesting concept, yeah.
And just to give you some samples, I just wrote down something. It's like 52% of consumers say that the technology plays a prominent role as it's ingrained into almost all aspects of the day-to-day life. So every day, 52, that they're really reluctant to technology.
Right.
76% of decision makers throughout the world say that the companies actually really create completely new experiences wherever people and the technology meet. People should always be at the center of this. Just to tell you, in DACH region, it's about 70% following this statement, which is actually quite a high number.
That is interesting. So let me see if I understand correctly. So people are putting technology at the center, but the reaction really is that most consumers, I assume, really say the human touch is still very important in all of that, right? Okay, that's great insight. So what are some of the challenges you've seen, and particularly in mind the financial service organizations I know you're dealing with a lot, face as they transition to the cloud?
Yeah, there are two aspects. First of all, it's the cloud adoption. And there we really see it's like, and that's very interesting. We just recently had an FSI State of Cloud report in the DACH region, and I'm staying in this region at the moment, but let's maybe duplicate it in the other region as well. And it's impressive. 100%, all the clients said, the corporate culture is holding it back from the cloud adoption. It's about the culture and the organization to move forward. Right. 83%, it's the IT department, and then so on. So we have around 5-6 different reasons why the adoption lags behind. But there's also the journey to cloud. How do I go to the cloud? what's my way? And here also give you really rough numbers. I think it's always interesting to underline from this report with numbers. So out of this enterprise, 83% say it's security is my main challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Then also same number, it's on regulatory. And then how do I deliver the service delivery? It's 67, and only 58% are actually on data, and then half of them, 50%, on legacy migration business case. So really holding back the most of them, it's really about I would say really the security and regulation aspect. Still, even in the last few years, we have clarified a lot. We had a lot of discussion. I think it's become much more clearer how to adopt and what it really means to go to the cloud.
Excellent. So it sounds like also here, the human still plays a key role, right, in adopting all these technologies, and the culture is a key element of that, right? But then also, as you say, security regulation play a big role, as they always do in financial services, right? Okay. So do you have any? Yep.
Yeah. So I have a personal saying on that. I mean, technically today you can do almost everything. There's no limit. The limit is the human itself and what you want to do with the technology. So, and the organization, what the organization wants to do. Let's give me one example from Asia, for example. I mean, you see the insurtech in China, for example. We always do here little small MVPs or small POCs, but and then you look to the Chinese, and then we do this innovation, we do this on the side, and most time we keep empty shells. But in China, like Binan, for example, the huge, large worldwide insurance company, the CEO just said, the more we change our operating model, which is also a difficult challenge, but they change around and they're really now innovative. If you see them on conference, what they do on with new technologies, you just have to Google about what they're doing with this picture analysis when they have a car damage. It's impressive, and I'm thinking, in my view, they're really shocking as well. A lot of the traditional European and American insurance company, what it can be done if you really allow technology to go. But the other hand, what the company or what the regulation of a country actually accept on that one. So very interesting discussion on that.
Interesting. So it sounds like Asian companies are much more open to change more radical, right, from the core, whereas probably Western or European companies specifically are a little bit more reluctant and take a different approach. But that's very interesting insight there.
Different culture, different history, and I think that's the reason behind.
Interesting. So how are customers differentiating between the different cloud platforms?
It's also a good question. I always got to ask, analytics, Google, business, Azure, Microsoft. At the end of the day, it really depends what you want to do with it, what kind of workloads you like to have, and where you have maybe also skills within your company, I would say, or where you think the future. And also a very important point, which we always forget, each of these cloud hyperscalers we speak of, AWS, Google, and even Alibaba, they have a huge ecosystem behind which every user can actually leverage and should leverage. So there's no use differentiating between. It's really, what do I want? So I really need to have a clear strategy and a vision, and then decide which direction I go.
Understood. And Guido, of course, we're doing currently a lot of events. Topic is usually access to China, right? We do those jointly together with Alibaba. And I know you as a, let's say, China expert, what are the differences when it comes to the hyperscalers when accessing China?
It's really what kind of service I want to provide in China and what I want to do with the China market. Companies cannot deny the Chinese market. I mean, in Europe, even 70% of the companies are doing business in China. So it really, as I said before, what kind of workloads, what kind of service I would like to provide. And then, of course, if I go in China, data privacy, we speak about data gravity as well. What do I do? So I have this China cybersecurity law, or MLPS, what I do with the data, and you have to play both markets. I have to keep the European GDPR. They also have to comply to the Chinese regulators and any partners who can help. And And Alibaba with 47% of the market share in China, it's a good partner.
Interesting.
But there are also others, we don't go only in one.
Of course. And what do you see as the challenges that European enterprises are facing with multi-cloud in particular? I mean, we mentioned various cloud providers just here. Are there regional differences in Europe in how enterprises approaching multi-cloud?
It's certainly still about security and regulations.
Right.
Security mainly about exit strategies. How do I move if I want to move? There are different opportunities, but it's moving away from the regulatory topic and the security topic. It goes more now in the how do I orchestrate these environments, if I especially have a multi-cloud or dual cloud or a hybrid cloud. How can I manage this one? How can I? And then it's really also important. I mean, do I keep the workload on two clouds? I have for each workload another cloud. What is my delivery model behind, and how I like to use the cloud? And that's why I always go back to this. You have to have a strategy and a vision for cloud, and then you go into the cloud. Otherwise, you won't be able to keep it simple.
Right. So if cloud is merely a supporting element, it's not the objective at the end. It's not an end goal, right? It's an enabler. That's what you're saying. Okay.
Very plainly said, a cloud is like outsourcing, just from a CapEx to OpEx.
Interesting.
And OpEx you have to manage.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. So how are your customers handling the data onslaught and the increase of data gravity?
That's a good question. So a lot of our clients, especially in FSI, they have a lot of discussions about the data residency of data privacy.
Right.
Sometimes legal is now more clear, but still in the business say, oh, it's a regulatory issue. So and we also need to see, I mean, I have this view, we always speak about big data and using the data, but which data we really need? And the way it's really, in my view, it's not about having big data, it's more like smart data, have the right data, and actually really do with the data what you need to do, and really leverage what you have and really use it. Most time we just collect and collect. That's a human thing. We like to collect, but you should also really intelligently use it.
Interesting. And you mentioned data residency as a part of data gravity as well, right? I think, but particularly here in Europe, that plays a large role, right? That the different jurisdictions require data to sit there, and that has to some degree some gravitational effect as well. Fully agree.
Yeah, you just mentioned it before. I mean, with China, US, Europe. I mean, US it's easy. China is also more or less easy. There's a huge market behind, but then you have Europe, which is quite fragmented and has different regulations. Even, of course, European Union has some overview of GDPR, but still everybody likes to own the data because the data is a new gold, as we all learned in the last few years. So it's about more worth than money at the moment.
Yeah. So we're slowly coming to the end of our fireside chat here. So last question maybe. So what does the future of financial services look like for you?
Let me go back to the point about technology and people. And I would really close it with a very sentence. I think the financial service becomes more human because it becomes more people focused.
That's great. So yeah. Now that's a great note to finish on. I think you mentioned it a couple of times. Technology is there to make things simpler, but the human is a key element, obviously, still in that. So yeah, Guido, many thanks for all those great insights. It was a pleasure talking to you. Looking forward to further great engagements together with you. And I would also like to thank all participants today. Please stay safe and enjoy the rest of the day. Many thanks.